Good morning, friends. So glad to spend some time with you this week. And I'm thinking about all the different things we got coming up because we are moments away from Christmas.
Moments.
Yeah.
We are weeks away from Christmas.
Moments away. Well,
Don't stress me out.
I had our preaching team meeting last night and we were discussing our upcoming Christmas series. We're doing Christmas at the movies. And so it's right here. It's that close.
But you're going to stress all the parents out, like of all the stuff that they have to get ready for Christmas.
You literally have moments to get it done. You need to go out this weekend and do all of it.
Everybody chill. You got plenty of time. Just go ahead and make sure that you're starting on your planning and everything, okay?
If it's not done Thursday and Friday, you're never going to get it all done.
You're such a pessimist.
You've got to get it done now.
You're good.
Don't procrastinate.
It's Halloween.
Don't delay.
It's Halloween today. You're like the stores.
Yeah, but when people listen to this tomorrow, it's November 1st.
That is true. When you listen to this, it is November 1st. But, like, the thing that I don't like about preparing for Christmas too early is I do not like skipping Thanksgiving. I'm a big Thanksgiving person. I am all about that holiday. It's about thanking God and thankfulness for one another. And
nobody's skipping that. Christmas is all the beginning of November. Thanksgiving's on the fourth Thursday, and then Christmas picks back up again.
Disagree.
So it's like a little pause right there.
False.
Well, the tree's going up tomorrow.
It is not. Our tree in the Osterkamp home never, ever, ever goes up before the day after Thanksgiving.
Until this year.
No.
She's going to leave for a paint job, and me and the girls are going to put the tree up.
I am sorry, but there is no way on earth that you would do that without me because you hate all the work that goes into it. You would never.
What would you do if you came home and the tree was up?
I would be mad.
I know, but what would you do?
I would bulldoze you. I would tackle you and start punching you.
You'd leave it up.
I would leave it up because I would not want. Actually, I might take it completely assembled and put it in the garage.
Good luck in it's through the door assembled.
All right, you're stressing me out. Can we just
I'm just saying,
on?
you don't have that much time, so.
Okay. Well, let's talk about episode 162.
All right. Are you ready to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Talking about idolizing your children?
Yes. Not really a problem in this house.
It is not.
Our kids were like, come on, get to work, do this, do that.
Yeah.
But it can happen, and it could happen to us.
Happens all the time. So,
yeah. So we got to talk about it.
All right. Episode 162. Here we go. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 162 of the Family Meeting podcast. We are excited about the podcast today.
Uber excited.
Uber. Yeah.
That means a lot.
It's so fun because what we do is we work as a team no matter what we do. This morning, you were moving my ladder around, helping me to accomplish a very tricky paint job.
Had to once again and come and rescue your business.
You came and saved the day, as you always do, with your handsome muscles. And now here we are switching gears and going into the podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss the dangers of allowing our children to become our idols. We can idolize our children.
Most definitely.
Yeah. If we aren't careful, this overwhelming love and care that we have for our kids can end up morphing into idolizing them. And they can actually take the place of our spouse, or God forbid, they could take the place of God in our lives. So that is one, it can be a really negative thing in our lives. So we want to talk about this, talk about why this is a negative thing, and then also talk about some of the symptoms or characteristics that may be happening in our homes that kind of are like a warning flag about this, that like, oh, this could be a problem in our house, and how we can change.
Before we get to that, though, that conversation, I want to invite you into a conversation we're having in our family meeting community group.
Okay.
And
this is on Facebook?
We've been having a discussion about what advice would you give to a person who's about to get married? And it's been an interesting conversation. I want to share just a couple of thoughts with you. Delia says, go to couples therapy, even if you believe that everything is hunky-dory.
Yes.
An impartial third party will walk you through everything you're supposed to talk about before you get married, which is such solid advice. And of course, we are very pro counseling, whether that's premarital counseling or counseling after you get married.
Yep.
Always helps to have somebody to walk you through some of those things. So Shelly says this, always replace the last roll of toilet paper or there will be a fight.
That is true. We've come a long ways.
We've come a long ways. So, and make sure you put it on the right way.
Oh my
There is a
goodness,
right
yes.
way and a wrong way to put toilet
Yes.
paper on the roll.
Thankfully,
So
we both agree.
you always go over and never under.
Absolutely.
Patty says this, learn everything about each other. You don't have to rush. And I like that.
It's good advice.
Not rushing into it. Adam Bray says this, and I'm sure that his wife will just love this. He says, run!
Yeah, right.
And it's a little gif with the little toddler who
I love this
makes
one.
that weird face and
Like he's
turns
like,
around
"Oh!"
and runs the other direction.
Yeah.
And so I think that that was quite funny, but Megan probably doesn't appreciate that. So
Right.
and then Brandon says this is the last one I'll share with you. Check your finances.
Oh, yeah.
So
We've come across...
having that conversation about money.
Yeah, we've come across more than one set of couples who were surprised after marriage to hear some of the debt or other situations that their new spouse was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested though to hear what your advice would be. Or
Yes.
what's the best premarital advice you've gotten
So
as
hop
you were about
on-
to get ready?
Hop on to Facebook and they just search Family Meeting Community.
Yes.
See, I'm like the one who's here always trying to break it down to simplest terms because if I listen to a podcast and it's like, jump into the Family Meeting Community, I would not know where to go or what to do. So I'm always trying to make it easy for people like me who are impaired. Okay, let's talk about idolizing our kids, shall we? We all love our kids, don't we? You?
Sometimes, yeah. When they're sleeping, they're all right.
Yeah. We all love our kids and we're supposed to love them, right? If we don't love our kids, there may be a problem. That's not natural. It's natural for us to have these babies and we look down at them and our hearts are just overwhelmed and full of love for them. And that's good. But this love can go to an extreme that God never intended it to go.
Right.
And the term love may no longer be an accurate term for what it is anymore, but the term obsession may be more correct. And probably somewhere along the line, you have run into parents who are obsessed with their kids and like the kid becomes the idol in the home.
Yeah, it's one thing to be proud of your kid and their accomplishments and whatever, but we all know some parents that they take it up a couple of notches.
Yeah, to where it may not be healthy anymore. And worshiping your kid like an idol, basically it means that the children are the most important relationship in the life of the parents. This is so dangerous.
Yeah.
This is not healthy, okay? This isn't how it's supposed to be. And oftentimes it's observed like the best friend parent model, okay? The parent who just wants to be their friend above anything else.
And when you talk about that, you're talking about as the kids are in a younger age of life, because obviously there is a parenting stage where they move into that friendship, right?
Yes, and we are transitioning into that already in the teen years. But yeah, definitely for that idea of like friendship is the goal, that would probably be more a problem when they're younger. When they're older, and they're especially with adult children, the whole point is
You move into
to
that friendship
be friends.
coaching
Yes.
stage, yeah.
So I'm glad you clarified that. Not only that, but like I think that you and I have both seen so parents with adult children who idolize the adult children.
Sure, where
And-
the adult children are your best friend versus like your spouse or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Or even maybe in the place of God. So it's really dangerous though when children grow to a place where only God should be in our lives, or even in a place where maybe our spouse should be, because God should be before even our spouse. but our spouse should be before our kids. And we're gonna really talk about that and dig into that and the why behind it. Why do we believe that is kind of the order of how relationship importance should be?
Yeah, and so one of the big goals we had with this episode is for each of us as parents to rightfully evaluate the relationships we have with our children, relationships we have with our spouse, the relationship we have with God. And so once again, I know we do have listeners who you're not Christians, you're not believers. That's okay. But we definitely don't hide the fact that we are Christians. We lead a church together. And so we do focus in on that relationship with God as well. But you need, even if you're not a believer in God, you need to evaluate your relationship with your spouse and with your kids and make sure those things are in the right order. But parents who idolize children make the relationship with a child their only focus in life. Now, we believe God should be first in our lives.
Yes.
Think about going back to the 10 Commandments. In Exodus chapter 20, verse number 3 says this, "You shall have no other gods before me." And that includes relationships with our kids. So we're not to put our kids before God. Deuteronomy 6:5 says this, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might." And what he's talking about is, hey, loving God first, loving God supremely,
yes,
more than anyone else, more than everything else, that he should have first place in our lives. And so the question I want to ask you to Lysandra as we get into this conversation is, when we talk about loving God first and having him first, what does it look like to have God first in your life?
Yeah, having God first looks like prioritizing time with him above all else, above everything else. And time with God looks like a lot of different things. In my life, one of the ways that I prioritize God above you and above the kids is when I wake up, I don't even get out of bed before I do two things. First of all, as soon as I have consciousness, I begin to pray and I say, God, I love you. I just say good morning to God and I love him. And that will a lot of times lead to some other quick prayers about usually it's Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Thankfulness, like, God, I thank you so much that you're in my life. I thank you for my husband, my kids, whatever. Okay. So then the next thing I do before I get out of bed is I open up my Bible. And for me, I read on my phone because it's so convenient. It's right there. And so I will read from the Bible. So the first thing I do is I talk to him. The second thing I do is let him talk to me through the Bible. And this is one way that God has first place. But that's not the only way that I spend time with God. There's other things that I do in my life as well.
Well, and the thing is, we all have the same amount of time during the day. And we all fit in the things that are a priority to us. And so what we're talking about is, hey, if you're going to make God first, then you prioritize him first. Say you have maybe a 5-gallon bucket and you've got a pile of rocks. Only so many rocks fit in the bucket.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking the God rocks and we're putting them in there first because God does rock. See what I did there?
Yeah, that was smooth, baby.
I'm a dad. It just came to me.
You're not only a dad, but you are a pastor.
Yeah, pastor dad. That's what my kids call me sometimes.
Pastor daddy.
So we're putting the rocks with the God label on them in very first.
Yes.
Why? Because those are should be the most important to me as a follower of Jesus. So that time spent with him is going to come first. So,
but it's not just time with him. So that's like kind of my first example, but it's also allowing him, like God himself, and also God's principles to dictate my life. So like every aspect of my life, how much time I spend doing this, the way that I parent my kids, the way I treat my spouse, the way that I run my business, just like literally every aspect of my life is operated because he is first. Like it's all around his character and his principles. So that's another way, I think, of putting God first.
Yeah. But what often happens is we put the kid rocks in first.
Yeah.
And we don't plan to put God first. And so what happens, and maybe it's not even a conscious thing, but because we haven't chosen to put God first, we put our kids first. Because our kids are going to demand that time of us.
Yes, they're always in your face, aren't they?
Yeah. From the time that they are born, like they are demanding of our time, of our attention in a lot of different areas of our life. And so what happens if we don't choose to prioritize God first and our relationship with him first, then without realizing it, we have filled up our bucket with all the kid stuff and we haven't, and then we ran out of time.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's no more room. There's no more room for God. Yeah, and it's a real problem. And not only that, but every other relationship in your life will be blessed if your relationship with God is strong. And we did a whole podcast episode on this. I highly encourage you to go look that up. I did not get the episode number.
Wah, wah, wah. Failed.
I've failed again. What's new? But there is a whole episode that we did talking about why having a strong relationship with God will actually benefit your children. It will benefit your spouse. It's actually the very best thing you can do for yourself or for your kids. So having that relationship with God is the most important.
So here I come in. I saved the paint job for you today.
Now you're going to save the podcast?
Saving the podcast.
What would I do without you?
Episode 155.
Thank you.
155. The one relationship that affects all others.
Yes. Okay.
And
great.
so we do highlight in that episode the importance and how that God relationship affects all the other relationships.
And the passionate part of me wants to just camp out right here on this episode and just stay right here and talk about this.
But we can't.
Because we have other stuff.
We've done that, and so you can go check that episode out for yourself. But we need to make sure that we are prioritizing God first. Otherwise, these other things will steal that priority from us.
Right. And I think about really simple things like the kids are not evil in this scenario. Okay. The kids are just kids. They're just being kids. And I think about like different times in my life where I sit down and I open my Bible and I like start to read and my little toddler would come over and like throw up in my lap, like the kid is not being bad. And all of a sudden I put the Bible down. Obviously I'm going to take care of my child. Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But okay. Now what's the new plan? Like, how am I going to make sure I have time for God? And for me, it's taking time for God before my kids are awake.
Yeah.
Even now, and I've got, we have 4 teenage daughters in our home right now. And you would not think that they were that needy. And our kids are super independent. Like they make dinner for us if we're both working.
Anybody with teenagers knows they're needy.
Yeah, they just like there's emotional issues. Like there's the homeschooling where just the other day, Violet was like, "Can you read my essay before I submit it?" All this. There's just like stuff that you're helping them with, taking them to and from sports or whatever else. But like Thomas said, if you prioritize God first, then you're gonna make time for God.
Well, and it's the same is true with prioritizing anything, right? So if you want to prioritize your health. Okay, you're going to set aside a time in your day where you can go to the gym, where you can, you're shopping for the healthy food. You're making a plan for how you're going to accomplish that, right? I get up and I go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. Why? Because if I don't, it's not going to happen that day.
Yeah, there's no time.
Because all these things start to happen once all the other family members are up. And we've got to get moving, and we've got meetings, and we've got work to do and stuff to do. And so if I'm going to make that a priority, I've got to get up early. I've got to make it happen. And the same is true in our relationship with God.
That's right.
You've got to make it happen. It's not just going to happen. In fact, the exact opposite is going to happen.
Yes.
And that's true of our health. If I don't prioritize my health, you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to eat right. I'm going to get fat. I'm going to be out of shape.
Yeah.
And cause my body harm just by not prioritizing it.
I feel like you're speaking my inner thoughts right now.
But our relationship with God is the same. It's It's going to grow colder unless we choose to prioritize it.
Okay, so I feel like we've made a pretty good case for the fact that God should be first. After God should be our spouse. We really, truly believe in prioritizing your spouse before your children. First of all, we've done that in our own life, and it's been really good for our kids. Our kids have a home where mom and dad love each other, where we talk kindly to one another, where we're very happy in our marriage, and our kids are happy and they feel peace and calm.
And this is a decision that we made before we ever got married, that we were going to prioritize our relationship with each other over relationships with our children. But that may not be the case for you. Or, hey, I made this decision, but I've not kind of followed through, and my children have kind of moved into that place. So there may be some rearranging that needs to take place. And when we're talking about having your spouse be that primary relationship, that does not mean that you're not going to spend more time with your kids. Because there are a lot of days where as parents, we're spending more time with our kids than we are with our spouse.
Oh man, the early days, it was like, the ratio was like 80-20.
Yeah.
You know, I was with or actually it was like 100% kids, and then 20% of the time you were added in.
Yeah.
Because you worked and I stayed at home, you know, so that's going to happen. But the question is not necessarily about how much time, but quality time that you are going to spend with your spouse. You are going to make them a priority and find that time together and work on the relationship and grow it. Prioritizing your spouse also is about listening to them. So let's say your kids are like, I think that we should go to Disney World for vacation, and your spouse is like, I am so tired of Disney World. I really just want to go to like a quiet cabin on a lake. You're going to listen to your spouse. Like I'm talking about prioritizing them, right? Putting them first. Yeah. That's what's so important.
Well, and one of the things that you can do to prioritize your relationship with your spouse is going away together.
Yes.
And this was really hard, especially for you when the kids were very, very small.
It was.
But it's something that we have always done. Even if it was just one night. Where it's like, hey, we're gonna spend one night away together to focus on our relationship, to kind of reconnect with each other with the busyness of parenting and life and everything else, and make each other a priority.
Yeah. And we have a whole episode on going away together, I think.
What number is that?
I don't know. And I'm not going to make you look it up, but it's about taking trips and taking that, getting away together, because it is really important.
But it was one of those things where it showed me that I was a priority to you, that you cared about your relationship with me, and it wasn't just all about the kids.
Yeah, and so often we say it, right, but we don't show it. So I might say like, "Oh, Thomas, I love you more than anyone," but then I let my kids control everything. My heart. My kids control my heart. It's not true. It's not honest, because our actions are what really prove where our priorities are.
Yeah.
So you've got to take time for your spouse.
So and here's what we're saying. Go away, just the two of you. Leave your kids with a trusted person and get away just the two of you.
Right.
And if it's been a year or longer since you've done that, it's time to do that.
Yep.
At least once a year, you need to get away. Just spend time.
And here's a question to kind of ponder. When your kids leave your house and it's just you and your spouse, will there be any relationship left? Do you know them? Is it going to be just crickets in your house? Are you guys going to keep living life separately, or do you have a friendship, a relationship that you can enjoy when they leave?
Yeah, because here's something to consider, okay? You fell in love with each other. You dated, you got to know each other. All the little things that you do about favorites and this or that, and you pretend to like whatever they like for a while, because you're getting to know them. And then what happens is if you don't keep them a priority. You have kids, so for like us, if you have just one, that's 18 to 20 years that they're around in the house. If the prices of housing keeps going up, it might reach into 30, but okay, so that's if you just have one.
Right.
Now we have 4.
Spread out over 5 years.
So then that makes that time even longer. You're looking at up to 25 years.
Yep.
With a child in the house. And after 25 years, we've both changed a lot.
Oh yeah, we are not the same people when we got married in a lot of aspects.
And if you're not prioritizing your relationship with each other, 25 years passes and you no longer have your kids there. You're looking at a stranger.
Yeah. Wow.
You really don't know each other. Because I guarantee you, favorite movie has changed in 25 years.
Yeah.
Favorite song has changed. Your routine has changed. How you feel about certain things have changed. If you've not prioritized the relationship, your feelings towards each other have changed.
Yeah.
And so that's a great question that you've asked. What kind of relationship do you have left once they're gone?
And we have heard couples say, we're just staying married until the kids leave. We're just in this relationship just to, help the kids get through high school, and then we're done. And that doesn't happen like right away. That happens over a lot of time where the kids came first, the kids were the priority, or maybe work or something else. But eventually there's no relationship left to foster. So we've got to make sure that our kids are not becoming the idols in our lives. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the why. I feel like we've covered that pretty thoroughly. Let's talk about maybe some qualities or characteristics that you would see in parents who idolize their children.
So here's what we want to do, and we talked about this at the beginning, all right? So this is not for you to look at your spouse and use it as ammunition to say, hey,
Right.
you're putting the kids first. Let's look internally and see if any of these qualities show up in me personally about any of my own kids.
Okay. So first of all, you never want to say no. You never want to say no to them because you want to make sure that they like you and that they're happy and that they don't throw a fit, and because your life is all about them.
Well, and here's the thing. When we've talked about this in the past, my default answer for my kids is yes.
Right.
Unless I have a reason to say no. And there definitely are a lot of reasons to say no.
Yes, you have said no many times, but it's because you had to.
Exactly. So we're not talking about, hey, if you say yes most of the time. No, it's literally you say yes to the detriment of
Right.
what's best for your child because you want to be the fun parent. You want to be the best friend.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to be a parent.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Will spend any amount of money to make their children happy, materialistically kind of speaking.
Maybe we can put that in happy in quotes.
Happy. Yeah, because things do not make you happy.
Well, not for long.
Not for
because
long.
whatever it is, think about it. From the time that they were toddlers, you buy them this toy, this stuffed animal that they want. They love it for a while, and before long, that thing's old and it's not as fun anymore.
Yep.
You buy them that piece of technology, and they play with it for a little while, and they either break it or, as quickly as technology goes in and out, it's obsolete. And now we've got to get the new phone, the new tablet, the new gaming system, whatever.
So if that's like your priority in life, you will, even if your spouse comes and says, hey, I'd really rather you not spend that $100 on that thing. And you're like, well, I really want them to have it, so I'm going to spend it anyway. You've put your child above your spouse, right? Okay, so now your child has become this idol where you are always trying to make them happy materialistically. How about this? Kids pretty much run the home. Where we go, what we do, what we eat, what we buy, what we watch. Kids are just running the home.
It's always interesting to me when we walk into a circumstance like that.
Yeah, it's foreign to us.
It seems so strange to me.
Yeah.
But I know it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
I I know that it's a progression to get to that place. But, if you're catering your entire life to the whims and desires of your child, that shows that you have elevated them to that idol status, to a place where only, God should be. God is the one who should dictate what our lives are like. And now we're living in a situation where, no, my kids are dictating every portion of my life, from what my schedule looks like to, well, we can't eat this because they only eat mac and cheese. Even little things like that.
Right. And like you said, it doesn't happen right away. My guess is that most of the time it starts when they're pretty young and they throw temper tantrums to get what they want. And it's just like not worth the fight.
So tired, and it's just easier to give them what they want.
Or, you don't want the embarrassment of the fit, so you just give them what they want. And pretty soon you've created this monster and they're running the home. So that may be like sports. Like this can happen in the teen years, where your kids are running the home. They're like, I want to be in this sport and this sport and this sport and this sport all at the same time. And you've got multiple kids. And so it's to the detriment of the entire family. But you do it all, because that's what the kids want to do. Maybe it's activities, or where we go on vacation, or friends coming over, or them going to friends' houses. And the decisions are all basically being made by the kids, because it's just easier that way. Or you just love them so much, you just want them to be happy. And pretty soon they're running home.
Yeah, and we're not saying that your kids shouldn't have a say. They shouldn't be able to voice their opinion on the schedule, or what you eat, or where you go on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what we're saying.
Because we'd love to hear our kids' input on all that stuff.
We want their input. And they should, that's part of our job as a parent, is getting them to voice their input and share that. But part of being a parent is saying, no, that doesn't work for our schedule. And depending on their age, explaining it to them why.
Right.
Okay, this is why this doesn't work into our schedule. This is why financially we can't afford to go to Disney World. Instead, we're going to go do this.
Instead, we're going to take a walk in our neighborhood.
Yeah, doesn't that sound fun?
We can afford that. It's going to be awesome.
Great. I'll buy you some mouse ears and you can go run through the sprinkler in the backyard.
It's our Disney World.
Just as good as Splash Mountain.
That is so funny.
How about this?
Okay.
And working in Christian school, and then working with youth ministry for 20 some years. This is one that gets me, and that is blinded to the faults of their children. That their children are perfect.
Yeah.
Here is a sentence to show that you are blinded to the faults of your kids. My child would never.
Yeah, fill in the blank. Then you're blinded.
She would never.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you. Yes, she would.
Yeah.
Yes, he would. And he probably has.
Yeah.
So I tend to lean the opposite direction. If somebody
what my kid do?
If somebody says, "Oh, your kid did," I'm like,
probably.
All right, yeah, they probably did. I know what I was like.
That's the thing, is like there is nothing that we are not capable of. As in you and me, Thomas. There's nothing that we are not capable of. We are sinful, flawed human beings. We are capable of the worst, heinous things. So are our kids.
Yeah. I mean, David was called the man after God's own heart, and yet he committed adultery and murder.
Yeah. Like two of the kind of worst sins in our society's eyes.
So I'm like, if the man after God's own heart is capable of that, I'm probably capable of a lot worse than that.
Yeah. And
my kids are capable of doing whatever it is.
Yeah.
Everybody has faults. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got failures. They got sins that they struggle with. That includes our kids.
Yep.
Your kids make mistakes. They fail. They have faults. But when we have these blinders on that, hey, my kid doesn't do anything wrong. Right. They're absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like they even, parents, I think, who idolize their kids maybe even like make excuses for their children's failures. or sin or blame others to take the heat off their kid.
Sure.
So like, oh, well, I know that my child bit your child, but your child looked at him weird, or whatever, just trying to blame somebody else. Or were you even watching them or
my
whatever?
child didn't look at them weird. My child's just weird looking. That's how they are. Like,
that's the way my child looks. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna really quickly here because we're running to the end of our episode, but we want to share this episode. It's a great article that we found. It's by Cornerstones for Parents, so that's a website, and it's called 10 Signs Your Kids Have Become an Idol by Laura. You scrolled up. Oh,
good luck with that.
By Laura K.
Kuehn.
Kuehn? Okay.
Kuehn, however you say that.
Okay, so some of these are going to, we're going to read these to you, but some of them are going to you've already kind of heard us talk about them, but this is a really good perspective. I really enjoyed this. So let's share this with our listeners.
So the first thing is you worry about whether or not you are exposing them to enough enrichment opportunities and actively seek to make sure that they are well-rounded. Your schedule is filled to the brim with practices, games, and lessons.
Yeah.
And the big part of that is the full schedule.
Yeah, because it's an unhealthy extreme.
Yeah. So your schedule is just way too full. There's nothing wrong with enrichment. There's nothing wrong with those things. Nothing wrong with trying to make your kid well-rounded.
Yes. But
if it's to the sacrifice and detriment of your own health and the health of your family overall.
Or being able to do things like go to church, study your Bible, pray. Like these are the other things too. Like sometimes we fill our lives so much that there's no room for God, and it can be schedules. And that's the reason why maybe. Okay. Number 2, you worry about finding ways to keep them busy and buy toys and games frequently that will help you achieve that goal. Now it's okay to buy your kids toys and games, right? Okay. I hope that everybody is taking this with what we intended to mean here, but we're talking about just being obsessed with getting the next toy, getting the next game, keeping them busy. What was the one phrase, it was 2 words, that we said to our kids constantly when they were little?
I don't know. I don't know what you were going to say. I've said many things to my kids.
When I say it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, go play.
Go
play.
We didn't. I never said that.
Oh, stop it. We would say that constantly. Mom, I'm bored. Go play. Mom, I don't know what to... Go play. When they stare at you and you're like working and they just are staring at you, you're like, go play. Remember, we used to do that all the time. We would say that. Your job is not to just entertain them constantly.
And I think about some of the most memorable times I had as a kid were times where I had to be creative with my play. Mm-hmm. My parents did not seek to entertain me. And so there were a lot of times where my brother and I, we'd get creative with the way that we played. And those are some of the best memories I have.
Yeah. And until you get bored, you don't start creating play. You have to get bored before you start creating play, generally speaking. So let your kids get bored.
What about this? All your vacations center solely on them. Notice that word solely. Mm-hmm. You haven't taken a vacation that you have enjoyed in years.
Your children are your idol if that's you.
Yeah.
Definitely. I feel like I can say that confidently.
Yeah. And you'll have overlap. There's things that you love to do that your kids love to do that you can find common ground on. But
that's when it's awesome.
When it's just solely about them, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You forfeit time with your spouse in favor of time with your kids. That's a big problem, and we've already hit that pretty hard.
You allow them, number 5, repeatedly interrupt your conversations.
Right. I remember somewhere along the way, there was some psychiatrist or something that was talking about how terrible it was for a parent to put one finger up to a child, not the bad finger. I realize
just give them the finger. That's a crazy psychiatrist that says don't give your child the finger. Like,
I realize this is a podcast and not a video. You got to watch on YouTube. I am putting my index finger up.
Okay.
Okay. But how it's so horrible for a parent to be like just a minute with your finger to your child. I personally disagree with that. I mean, it shouldn't be the only thing we ever do, and we're always pushing them off. But it's very good for all of us to learn patience and wait our turn in a conversation, including our children. So I have no problem with, just telling my child, just a minute, or teaching them how to interrupt appropriately and in the right way and all that. But
yeah.
Yeah, we could get into that. Okay, number 6. You worry that one misstep on your part will cause permanent or social and emotional damage to the point, like, of course, all of these things have to be to an unhealthy extreme for them to indicate that you are idolizing your child. But, to the point where it causes you stomach ulcers and depression and anxiety. Like you're putting too much, you're putting your child on a pedestal at that point where you're so obsessed with them that now it's causing you emotional and mental damage. Because you're so worried about.
Well, and here's the thing. We talked about this with the kids. They make mistakes. They fail. They're human. You're human.
Yeah.
So you're going to make parenting mistakes. You are going to fail. Part of the learning is saying, hey, I'm sorry. I made a mistake.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because here we are, Thomas and Lysandra Osterkamp, running the Family Meeting podcast, giving out all these ideas. Yeah, we share our failures and stuff. But the truth is, until our kids are all the way grown and out of the house and they come back and they're like, Mom and Dad, when you did this or you said this, it messed me up.
Yeah, totally.
We aren't going to know until then. We're doing the best we can here.
We're all messing up our kids. We just don't know how yet.
Exactly. I'm kind of, in a way, like anxious to find out exactly what we did that really messed them up. We'll find out.
A lot of things.
Yeah. What are the top 5, maybe? Okay.
Number 7. You focus on their happiness rather than their character.
I love this one.
Yeah. Because the character is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Happiness is not the most important thing. Their character is.
Although I will say this, I think that when you have good character, happiness comes from that. Because you're doing what's right, you're following the Lord, you're being kind to others, those kinds of things. And I think happiness can come after that. Okay, how about this one? I've been guilty of this before. You are overly concerned about how they behave in public and spend a great deal of time addressing outward behavior at the expense of the heart. So notice that last little part there, the expense of the heart. This is often fueled by fear and concern about what other people think of you as a parent or of them, and image becomes everything. So this, again, it's not really about character. It's not really about the heart. It's just about them not embarrassing you, which that's pride in your own heart. But it's also, being obsessed with your children. Because like all of our kids have their own fits in public. Like they do that. It's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm dealing with this thing as with teenage kids. Because I want my teenagers to appear to other people to be kind and friendly and look adults in the eye when they're being, when they're talking.
Look like they care about anything.
Yeah, just look like you care about something. Please, teenager.
A half smile would be great.
Yeah. Maybe don't roll the eyes as much, like you're making me look bad, So this hits even as they're teenagers. And I would assume greatly when they're adults.
Yeah.
Because they're a reflection of us, and you don't want your adult kid to embarrass you either.
Number 9. You do whatever you can to make their life easier, picking up after them because they are too busy or avoid developmentally appropriate expectations like chores and whatever, so as not to stress them out.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that number 9 there can translate into adult children as well.
Oh, totally.
Constantly following your adult children around to make their life easier, make sure they're not stressed out, like where your life is really obsessed with their life. I'm sure that can hit with adults too. Number 10, you decline invitations to events or activities because you fear that the kids will be bored or uninterested. Now, we've done this occasionally, and I think that this in a healthy balance can be okay to not go somewhere or not do something because it's like the kids are going to hate that. I get that every once in a while. But if that's your entire life and it's being run that way, then there's a problem.
Yeah, and you don't hang out with your friends and you don't go to things that you enjoy because my kids won't find it interesting. Like that gets to be very unhealthy.
It does. So that's a really good article. I encourage you to go look it up and you can make your own checklist and see what you think.
So with family meeting tonight, here's what we want you to do is we want you to sit down as a family and just have a conversation about relationship priorities. And here's what I think is an interesting exercise to do is to open up each person to, hey, how am I doing on this? What do you think? What relationship do you think is top priority in my life? And to hear what our kids say is kind of revealing to us.
Right.
Do they feel like we put God first in our life?
Wow. This may be eye-opening for a lot of us.
And it's a great conversation to have about what those priorities should be, and talking to your children about, hey, all of us need to have God first as our priority. And then mommy and daddy, we need to have our next highest priority ought to be our relationship with each other. And then as a family, our next highest priority is our relationship, all of us together. And so having this discussion and letting them give some honest feedback about how we're doing, what do those priorities look like? And so it also may mean that as parents, we've got some apologizing to do.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm sorry because I've not been putting my relationship with God first. Or I'm sorry, I have not been putting my relationship with you as a spouse. You may need to apologize to your spouse in front of your kids. Or you may need to apologize to your kids saying, hey, I'm sorry, I put you first before my relationship with mom or dad. And explain to them, like, why it's important that we have these priorities in our relationship and why they need to be in that order. So I think it'll be a helpful conversation you have tonight with your family.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting. I'm not going to really enjoy this one. I'm kind of dreading this one. This one is a tough one to talk about. We're going to talk about how pain has a purpose in your life, in your spouse's life, and in your children's life. Although it's so difficult to see other people suffer or to suffer ourselves, there's a purpose behind pain, and we grow from it. And so we're really going to talk about that and just how to support your family while they go through something very painful.
Well, and this goes back to what we were saying just a second ago about prioritizing happiness over character. Because life is not about character. And we're not going to be happy all the time. Life is difficult. Life is tough. Life is full of pain and heartache and sadness. But there is a purpose in all of that. And we'll talk more about that next week together. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was, but please don't do that again.
That was me being cool.
Yeah, you are so cool.
Thank you. I'm very good at it. I work hard.
Apparently.
It's all you, babe.
All right, so we've got to run on to our next thing. We're about to head out to a lunch appointment, and we're taking our oldest daughter, who's turning 18, away for a couple days, just her and us, and we're going to do a photo shoot for her for her senior pictures. So we're leaving.
So crazy.
Leaving tomorrow for a couple days, heading up to Savannah.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. So all you listeners in Savannah, watch out for us because we're coming your way.
Thanks for joining us this week.
Bye.
Bye.